you picture a wedding, I mean, from the outside, it looks exactly like a fairy tale, right? You've got, the perfect amber lighting, sweeping floral arrangements, just a flawless cake.
Oh yeah, and the muse perfectly timed to the first dance. It's pure romance.
Pure, unadulterated romance. But if you push through the double doors of the banquet hall and, step into the loading dock, the vibe changes entirely.
It really does. It's a fiercely competitive, highly lucrative, and frankly cutthroat business environment back there.
Exactly. And the contrast between that front of house magic and the back of house logistics is just staggering.
Right, because those vendors who are orchestrating all that romance, they're basically living or dying based entirely on the mechanics of their pricing strategies. It's an ecosystem driven by margins, not magic.
And that is our mission for today's deep dive. We are looking at a literal masterclass in pricing strategy. And this comes straight from the article section of the Weddizer website.
Which is such a fantastic resource.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
if you are operating in the bridal niche, Weddizer is essentially your go-to platform. You use the Weddizer website for business purposes. You can find how to deal with wedding events. You get all this guidance through the article section. It's incredibly comprehensive.
Yeah, and today we're unpacking their specific breakdown on B2B pricing models for wedding suppliers, specifically looking at wholesale versus retail.
Right. And I know for some of you listening, that might sound highly specific at first glance. Like, why do I care about wedding vendor pricing?
But the underlying mechanics of what we're going to discuss today, they really apply anywhere. I mean, we're talking about margin optimization, brand positioning, and that really intricate dance of selling to other businesses versus selling directly to consumers.
Exactly. If you want to understand how money actually moves behind the scenes of any major production or event, this is the blueprint. So, okay, let's unpack that.
Well, to really grasp how pricing dictates survival in this environment, we first have to map out who is actually paying the invoices, right? Because the Weddizer article points out, this fundamental reality wedding suppliers operate in a dual economy. They are constantly straddling the line between selling directly to the end consumer and operating as a business-to-business or a B2B supplier.
Okay, to visualize this, let's look at it like a massive theatrical production, right? The couple getting married, they are the audience.
Yeah, I like that analogy.
They are buying a ticket to the show.
Mm.
So they hire a lead photographer or they book a grand venue, and that's your retail space.
The visible tip of the iceberg, essentially.
Exactly. But beneath the water, or behind the curtain, making up the vast majority of the actual production, is a massive interconnected supply chain of businesses hiring other businesses.
Right, you have large-scale caterers holding exclusive contracts with the venues.
Yeah, or boutique decorators acting as the private supply arm for high-end event planners. That entire backstage ecosystem is the B2B space.
And what's fascinating here is why this dual identity is so crucial for a supplier's defensive strategy. Choosing the right pricing structure in this backstage network, it isn't simply a math problem where you just try to maximize the dollar amount on a single invoice.
Right, it's way more complex than that.
Exactly. It's about building a fortress of sustainable partnerships. I mean, if a custom furniture rental company only focuses on the audience, the couples, they're entirely exposed.
Because they have to constantly hunt for the next couple.
Precisely. They are missing out on the structural, recurring revenue that comes from being deeply embedded in that backstage supply chain.
Which naturally brings us to the specific pricing model that actually fuels that entire backstage network, which is wholesale pricing.
Right.
So the Weddizer guide defines wholesale pricing mechanically as basically selling your products or services in bulk at a heavily discounted rate to other businesses.
So those businesses, the planners, the venues, the production agencies, they then turn around and seamlessly integrate your work into their larger package.
Yeah, and then they resell it to the end client at a markup.
Let's look at how that actually functions in practice, though. Imagine a highly skilled florist. Instead of chasing down individual brides, they establish a pipeline with a luxury wedding planner. They negotiate a lower fixed rate for their centerpieces.
Or, consider a boutique linen company that provides custom napkins and tablecloths directly to a catering agency.
Right. The end client, the couple, they just write one massive check to the planner or the caterer. They have absolutely no idea what the individual florist or linen company charged.
And frankly, they often don't even know the names of those specific suppliers.
Completely anonymous.
See, I have to push back on the psychology of that, though. I mean, wait, if you are an incredibly talented floral designer creating these breathtaking avant-garde installations, Why on earth would you willingly accept a significantly lower profit margin per stem?
It's a fair question.
And on top of the financial hit, why would you let the overarching wedding planner take all the credit for your artistry on Instagram? Like, is it really worth forfeiting your brand equity just to be the invisible supplier in the background?
Well, it is the ultimate operational trade-off, really. You
Yeah.
are sacrificing ego and margin for velocity and security.
Okay, security. Explain that.
So the Weddizer guide outlines the sheer mathematical weight of the advantages you gain in the shadows, and the most vital one being consistent business volume.
Right, the repeat orders.
Exactly. When you become the exclusive wholesale florist for a planner who books, say, 40 weddings a year, you are no longer hunting for survival. That planner is essentially acting as your outsourced sales team.
Oh, wow. Yeah, bringing you a guaranteed pipeline of repeat orders. So you're trading a high, unpredictable ceiling for an incredibly solid, predictable floor.
Exactly. And that drastically changes your mental bandwidth. It completely removes the feast or famine anxiety that destroys most creative entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I can totally see that.
And to take that a step further, look at what happens to your customer acquisition cost. It plummets to near zero.
Because you aren't paying for ads targeting stressed out brides.
Right. Think about the astronomical amount of money, time, and energy it takes to market to newly engaged couples. They are a constantly rotating audience who will likely only ever buy your service once.
Yeah, ideally just once, right?
Right. So by operating wholesale, your target demographic shrinks from thousands of transient couples down to maybe a dozen highly successful business clients.
So you don't need a massive social media ad budget
Mm.
or a booth at a bridal expo.
Exactly. You just need to maintain a few key relationships over coffee and, you know, deliver flawlessly.
And those tight relationships create a moat around your business. You become an entrenched part of their workflow, which naturally generates long-term, high-quality referrals within the industry itself.
Right.
But I mean, we can't ignore the reality that playing the shadows carries a heavy inherent risk.
Oh, absolutely. The vulnerabilities are significant. You are explicitly suppressing your profit margins on every single item that leaves your shop.
And you are dealing with a severe lack of brand visibility. Like you said, if a couple attends a wedding and loves the floral arch, they don't ask for the florist card, they ask for the planner's card.
Exactly. But the most dangerous element of the wholesale model is the dependency. You are entirely reliant on intermediaries.
Right. If your primary venue partner loses their lease.
Or your top planner decides to bring their floral design in-house, an enormous percentage of your revenue stream can just vanish overnight.
Wow. Yeah, that is terrifying. So the wholesale route is about volume, efficiency, and safety, but you are perpetually playing a supporting role.
Exactly.
Now, if a vendor decides they are tired of the shadows and wants to capture the full value of their work, they step directly out to the couple.
Yeah.
And this brings us to the retail pricing model.
Right. So retail pricing removes the intermediary entirely. You are selling your services directly to the end consumer.
And because you aren't offering a bulk discount to a planner, and you're taking on the burden of the sale yourself, you command a significantly higher price point, capturing your absolute maximum profit margin.
You get the whole pie.
Exactly. Here's where it gets really interesting. If we look at this through a different lens, the retail model is essentially being the lead singer of a rock band, while the wholesale model is being a highly sought-after studio session musician.
Oh, that framing captures the risk profile perfectly.
Right, because as the session musician, the wholesale vendor, you show up, you execute your craft flawlessly, and you collect the guarantee's reliable paycheck. But your name isn't on the album cover.
Right.
But as the lead singer, the retail vendor, you get the spotlight, the applause, and the creative freedom to direct the entire show. But the caveat is monumental, right? You have to hustle for every single ticket sold. If the arena is empty on a Saturday night, you have no one to blame but yourself.
That is so true. And as the quote-unquote lead singer, the Weddizer source highlights that the financial rewards can be staggering. The profit margins per sale are incredibly high.
Because you aren't discounting anything.
Exactly. You maintain absolute granular control over your pricing structure.
Yeah.
You also cultivate fierce brand recognition. Couples are booking you for your specific aesthetic, which translates directly into total creative freedom.
Yeah, you are executing your direct vision
Yeah.
without an intermediary planner looking over your shoulder, demanding you dilute your style to fit their predefined corporate package.
Right. But the flip side of being the lead singer is heavy. If you want the full margin, you have to absorb the full operational cost.
Yes. The starkest disadvantage is the sheer cost of acquisition. Because you have to constantly fill the arena with new ticket buyers, your marketing expenses skyrocket.
Oh, absolutely. You are battling against the algorithms, paying for prime placement on vendor directories, and constantly generating fresh content. And because of this relentless churn, your demand curve is notoriously unpredictable.
It's exhausting just thinking about it. But perhaps the most hidden cost in the retail model is the sheer volume of time consumed by client management.
We really need to pause on that point because the emotional labor of the retail model is massive.
It really is. I mean, a
Mhm.
couple spending tens of thousands of dollars on the single most emotionally charged, high-stakes day of their lives requires a staggering amount of hand-holding.
Yeah, we are talking about late night emails, weekend text messages, endless Pinterest board revisions.
And managing the expectations of their extended families. I mean, if you are selling wholesale, a venue coordinator ordering 100 standardized centerpieces does not need emotional support.
No, they definitely don't.
A bride buying one custom centerpiece absolutely does.
Yes. And the operational toll of that emotional labor cannot be overstated. When you price for retail, you aren't just pricing for the flowers or the cake, you are heavily pricing in the hazard pay for months of intensive communication and psychological management.
Wow, hazard pay. That's a
Yeah.
great way to put it. Which paints two very extreme realities for our listener. You have the wholesale vendor churning out volume in the background, maximizing efficiency, but sacrificing margin and brand.
Right.
And you have the retail vendor fighting on the front lines, maximizing profit and creative control, but drowning in marketing costs and emotional labor. The natural assumption is that a business owner has to choose a lane.
You'd think so.
But the Weddizer article introduces a completely different paradigm, which they frame as the ultimate operational goal, and that is the hybrid pricing strategy.
Right, which is exactly what it sounds like. It is the blending of both methodologies. You build a foundation of wholesale stability and you layer retail premium pricing on top of it.
Oh, I see.
It offers the absolute best of both worlds, but, and this is a huge, but only if a business has the sophisticated operational capacity to run two parallel tracks without derailing.
So how does a supplier actually pull this off without confusing their market or losing track of their money? Let's look at a concrete example of how a vendor navigates this. Imagine a high-end catering company. They might secure a wholesale contract with a popular local venue to provide standardized, efficient chicken and beef packages for 50 weekends a year.
Right, and that keeps the lights on and pays the kitchen staff.
Exactly. Then simultaneously, under the exact same roof, they offer a bespoke 7-course retail tasting menu directly to couples hosting private estate weddings, charging a massive premium for the exclusivity.
Yeah.
But the logistical challenge there is immense.
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, mastering that complexity is the hallmark of a truly resilient business. The strategic benefits, highly diversified income streams, insulated risk against market downturns, and expansive market reach, they make solving that logistical puzzle entirely worth it.
So it's tough, but worth it.
Exactly. And the Weddizer article doesn't just suggest this conceptually. It actually functions as an operational roadmap, detailing 5 specific execution strategies to make a hybrid model work without imploding.
Okay, this is where we get into the actual mechanics of execution. So tip number 1, the first hurdle the text brings up is the most foundational.
Yeah.
Knowing your costs. But in a hybrid model, that goes way beyond just looking at your bank balance at the end of the month, doesn't it?
Oh, completely. It requires a forensic understanding of your numbers. You have to isolate the exact costs of materials, physical labor, overarching overhead, and your target profit margin for 2 completely different delivery methods.
Right.
For example, your labor and overhead for a wholesale venue client might be drastically lower because, as we discussed, the emotional client management is essentially zero.
Right. You're not doing the late night texting.
Exactly. You have to mathematically prove what your absolute financial floor is. If you don't know your exact baseline, offering a planner a 30% wholesale discount could mean you are actually paying them for the privilege of doing the work.
Wow, yeah, that's a fast way to go out of business. And once you know your internal numbers, you have to look outward.
Which brings us to the second piece of the puzzle, researching competitors.
You can't just invent a premium retail price based on vibes. And you certainly can't guess what a standard wholesale discount looks like in your specific zip code. If you want to pitch that local wedding planner, you have to know exactly what the caterer down the street is currently charging them.
Because market context is everything.